Asia is the largest and most populous continent, home to the largest Russia and most populous China nations. Asia is the largest of the world's continents, covering approximately 30% of the Earth's land area. It is also the world's most populous continent, with roughly 60% of total population. In general terms, Asia is bounded on the east by the Pacific Ocean, on the south by the Indian Ocean, and on the north by the Arctic Ocean. The border of Asia with Europe is a historical and cultural construct, as there is no clear physical and geographical separation between them. It is somewhat arbitrary and has moved since its first conception in classical antiquity. The division of Eurasia into two continents reflects its West cultural, linguistic, and ethnic differences, some of which vary on a spectrum rather than with a sharp dividing line. The commonly most the most commonly accepted boundaries place Asia to the east of the Suez Canal, separating it from Africa, and to the east of the Turkish Straits, the Ural Mountains and Ural River, and to the south of Caucasus Mountains and the Caspian and Black Seas, separating it from Europe. In Asia, you will find the big exotic capitals like Bangkok, Beijing, Jakarta, New Delhi, Seoul, and Taipei, but also smaller, but famous capital cities like Kathmandu, Lhasa, Vientiane, or Hanoi. The city sites offer travel and tourism information. Get tips for your vacation on accommodation, local activities, tourist attractions, cultural events, sightseeing, and round trips for your leisure activities in that city. Week 14. The important features of Europe, such as its countries, capital cities, monetary, people, major ports. The European continent is located completely in the northern hemisphere and mainly in the eastern hemisphere. Europe borders onto Arctic Ocean in the north, the Atlantic Ocean in the west, and the Mediterranean Sea in the south. There are 50 countries in Europe with a total of more than 748 million people living on the continent in 2021. The European part of Russia covers more area than any other country. The three largest countries are Russia and the Ukraine and France. Read our Russia facts are here. Largest capital city, Moscow. The Russian capital city houses more than 13 million inhabitants within the city limits. St. Petersburg's in Russia's second largest city with 5.3 million inhabitants. Moscow in the largest city that is entirely entirely on the European continent. Smallest country, Vatican City, in the smallest country not only in Europe but also in the world. The city-state, an enclave within Italy, is the smallest country both by population and by size. Europe is the western peninsula of the giant supercontinent of Eurasia. Europe is divided from Asia by a series of watersheds, including the Ural River and the Caspian and Black Seas. Europe is the second smallest continent. However, its strategic position in relation to Asia and Africa, as well as na negatable rivers and fertile soil, have made Europe a dominant economic, social, and cultural force throughout recorded history. Europe physical geography, environment and resources, and human geography can be considered separately. Europe's rich agricultural and industrial diversity has made the continent a center of trade and commerce for centuries. It is centrally located between the two other old world continents, Africa and Asia. These traditions of exchange prompted the early and rapid urbanization of the continent, recognizable in many dynamic cities that make up most of Europe. Europe is the second smallest continent in size, but the third largest in population. The European continent houses and land area of 50 countries. However, of these 50 countries, only 44 have their capital city on the European continent. Of the European countries, 27 nations belong to the European Union (UE), which is a political and economic union. Week 15. The important features of Africa, such as its countries, capital cities, monetary, people, major ports. Africa is a bigger than the USA, Canada, and India together. Africa covers an area larger than 30 million square kilometers, 11.7 million square miles. There are more than 3,000 different groups of indigenous people living in Africa. They are all have their own language and culture. As Africa was colonized and suppressed until the last century, the majority of Africans is still poor. Africa is the cradle of humankind, the place where the first homines, human beings, and their closest relatives, the gorilla and chimpanzees, evolved. Fossils found in Africa shows that the modern human evolved there about 5 to 10 million years ago and spread from this continent. The landscape of Central Africa are most often wide plateaus, which are smooth in the central part and edge at the periphery. The interior basin of the Congo River is joined to the Atlantic Ocean by a narrow neck traversing ridge parallel to the coast. The basin contains some marshland in the region where the Congo, Ubangi, Likwala, and Sangha rivers converge, and where lakes May, Nombe, and Tumba are found. Its major port, its major part, however, consists of drier surfaces, low plateaus, or alluvial terraces. Week 16. The important features of America, such as its countries, capital cities, monetary, people, major ports. In the early days of the United States, frontier life required hard work, and what is known as the Protestant work ethic reinforced that trait. A strong emphasis on education, including technical and vocational training, also contributed to America's economic success, as did a willingness to experiment and to change. Major industries include meta metallurgy, machine building, shipbuilding, chemicals, electronics, instruments and meters, textile, and other light industries. In addition to its highly developed commerce, banking, and ocean-going shipping industry, the United States is rich in mineral resources and fertile farm soil, and it is blessed with a moderate climate. It also has extensive coastlines on both the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, as well as the Gulf of Mexico. Week 17. The important features of Australia and Oceania, such as its countries, capital cities, monetary, people, major ports. Oceania and Australia. Geography. The region of Oceania and Australia includes the continent of Australia as well as many surrounding island countries. It is located to the southeast of Asia. Australia is the smallest continent by size and the second smallest in terms of population. The region of Oceania and Australia includes the continent of Australia as well as many surrounding island countries. It is located to the southeast of Asia. Australia is the smallest continent by the size of the second smallest in terms of population. Oceania and Australia are surrounded by the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. Oceania is a region made up of thousands of islands throughout the Central of South Pacific Oceans. It includes Australia, the smallest continent in terms of total land area. Most of Australia and Oceania is under the Pacific, a vast body of water that is larger than all the Earth's continental land masses and the islands combined. The name Oceania just established the Pacific Ocean as the defining defining characteristic of the continent. Oceania is dominated by the nation of Australia. The other two major landmasses of Oceania are the microcontinent of Zealandia, which includes the country of New Zealand, and the eastern half of the island of New Guinea, made up of nation of Papua New Guinea. Oceania is also includes three islands region: Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia, including the U.S. state of Hawaii. Oceania's physical geography, environment and resources, and human geography can be considered separately. Oceania can be divided into three island groups: continent, continental islands, high islands, and low islands. The islands in each group are formed in different ways and are made up of different materials. Continental islands have variety of physical features, while high and low are fairly uniform in their physical geography.